share with all your friends or want to have a great discussion about love and money or relationships and money with Miss Stefanie, the Life Architect.
Hello.
So Stefanie, the Life Architect, is a certified professional empowerment and performance coach, speaker, and podcaster. Stefanie actively spreads her empowerment and permission-giving message to aid everyone, specifically girls and women of all ages and backgrounds, to build, customize, and design their lives. So Stefanie, I gave a little bit of background. You want to add on to that at all?
Sure. First of all, thank you for having me, and hello to your followers. Happy Monday. I hope everyone is feeling their best selves, and if you're not, that's okay. As you stated, I am the Life Architect. What does that mean? As he stated, I build, customize, and design emotional lives. Not everyone needs extensive therapy. Not everyone is diagnosed depressed or full of anxiety. Some people don't have the mountain on their shoulders. They're at the mountain and they're ready to climb and they need some guidance. And that's when you contact me. I like to tell people that I'm an emotional GPS system. Just like when you get in your car, you put in the destination of your choosing, and the GPS guides you to the most efficient way, with the least amount of tolls and dead ends. I do that for you emotionally. So if you ever need to have someone help you build, customize, and design your emotional life, feel free to holler at me. I can be reached anytime at blcny.org.
So emotional GPS.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to come back to that. But before we get too deep, I wanted to bring Stefanie on because last week I shared a post about who should pay the bills. It asked, there's a bill of $1,500 for your rent, another $350 for your utilities. And it asked, finally, who should pay the money, the man or the woman? No, I'm sorry. It asked, how much should the man pay? And that post exploded. I want to say it went viral, but it was a little short of viral, but it got a lot of traction, a lot of activity. And I said, wow, you know what? With my experience as being a financial advisor, an accountant, people helping people with money, I have literally had situations where couples would get into fights sometimes when I would talk to them about money. Mm-hmm. And this issue of money is always one of contention. And it's always a point of controversy, so to speak. And so I said, I'll bring Stefanie on to talk about it because I thought Stefanie had one of the most thought-provoking responses. I don't have the response right in front of me, but basically.
I do.
You do?
I do. I'm always prepared.
Always prepared. You're making me look bad.
No, not at all. We're a team together. We're a team.
Nah, it's all good.
Would you like me to read the response?
Yes. What was your response, Stefanie?
Okay, my response was folk will ruin relationships stuck in the "that's how I was raised" phase. This all depends on how much each person brings home and what other non-negotiable commitments such as child support, school loans, etc. need to be paid per person. Money is the number one cause of divorce and separation. Be clear on credit scores, financial literacy, and non-financial currency prior to cohabitation for successful sustainability.
And I thought that was beautiful.
Thank you.
I thought that was absolutely beautiful because it showed you need fluidity, flexibility, open communication, and an open mind. Yes. To this thing we call love, this thing we call relationships, this thing we call marriage at times. And a lot of people weren't feeling it. I mean, I even had some women who said, everybody should pay 50-50 to challenge other men's manhood. And they said, things like a real man. You ladies know how to get under our skin when y'all want to. You know how to push the buttons.
And you know what? It's really inappropriate at this stage of the game, meaning in 2018, we have to really stop emasculating men over a dollar sign.
I agree. So, again, I wanted to have that conversation because I felt it's 2018. We have all these things going on from Me Too to, feminist movement to everything for empowering women. Mm-hmm. But I don't see the same kind of conversations when it comes to relationships, when it comes to money. Mm-hmm. And I'm not a woman, but I figured I would try to find an enlightened woman to talk about this. And you are a woman that is married, correct?
I am married going on 9 years. Yes.
Okay. So it's not like you're just talking, one of those people that are saying, I have experience in this, or this is how you should do it, but I have no experience. You have experience. You got 9 years, almost a decade.
9 years, almost a decade, but 15 years together. So there was a courting phase, and then we're in the going on the decade phase. Yes.
So how long have y'all been sharing money, commingling money?
With only in the last 2 years.
Oh, wow. So even this is a buildup. This is a recent discovery.
This is a recent discovery because we both recently put that on the table. To be with someone so long and have all these arguments, and as I stated to you prior to recording, all these breakdowns about money, we decided to sit down as two adults and start to have a build up about it instead.
Okay. So, wow, you didn't start out from the gate. So you had to build up to that. So
we didn't have any knowledge to start off from the gate. You know, we're New Yorkers who come from the Bronx and Harlem, and all we were told was to save money. We weren't told how to save money, how to save it together, how to save it individually. We weren't taught about credit scores. You know, we both had people, our parents put their phones in our names. And, you know, when people use their children's credit, you know, so when I started to use my credit, I found out that there was credit already used. And I said, how? I was a toddler. So we weren't really, you know, wise in that area at all. And he gave me credit because I started to get my credit together. I built my credit, and he saw what I was doing and saw the benefits of what was happening with my credit. And he sat down and he said, teach me. I'm ready to learn. And we started to build on it together.
That's awesome. Now, what made you start building your credit?
It was crappy. And I want to own a home. I am tired of living in an apartment. I'm tired of renting. And of all the nice things that I have, whether it's diamonds or coats or shoes and all this stuff, it's all in a small 500, 600 foot square apartment in the middle of the Bronx. And it makes no sense how much I travel and how many things I have, but I really have nothing.
Right.
So I wanted to start getting myself together.
So you developed this wisdom through trial by fire.
Trial by hellfire. Yes.
Hellfire. So we got to take it up a whole other level.
Take it up a whole other level, because comes a time when you look around where you are and you say, I have all this stuff, but what does it really amount to? If I die today, would my family have to struggle to bury me? Would I leave my husband debt? Would I have to have him have a GoFundMe page? Where's my life insurance? You know, you start to think about stuff like that.
Right. And so you go through all these conversations, and then y'all get to a point where you say, you know what, it's time to elevate our thinking, our approach. And you sit down and you have a conversation and you say, this is what I want to do. This is how we're going to go. And y'all agree upon it. Yes.
I use some of my coaching tools, and I'm fortunate that he is open to that and doesn't feel like I'm always assessing him or always trying to
say that can be dangerous.
It can be dangerous. And that's something else I had to learn, that I'm not always on. He's still my husband. I'm still just his wife at times. But again, I'm very fortunate that he will ask for me to use them.
Okay.
Say, this is when I feel like you have the tools to get us to where we need to be. So I did what I do with my clients. I asked what the goals were. What were your goals? What were my goals? And let's bring them to the table. Because a lot of times in marriage, especially men who don't really communicate or know how or feel they have a safe place to do so, they'll just go with whatever the wife says. And I didn't want that. I don't need a yes man, right? I don't want that. So I said, let's separate. You go to your corner. I'll go to mine. We'll reconvene this weekend. And you tell me written down what your goals are financially. And I'll bring mine. And then we'll try to merge the two.
Right. So that brings me to a point or a question. You said that, and I hear a lot of people say this, that finance is the reason for most marriage ruin or divorce. And I always counter back and say it's not really finance. It's really communication or the lack of, or the tools. Because some of us, like you just kind of said, some of us don't have the tools to properly communicate with our spouses as well. And so what does a person really need to be able to communicate? Because money is a sore spot, right? You know, we can't ignore the social roles of a quote unquote man, right? You know, the provider, the protector, the guy that's supposed to make everything right. You know, basically the Prince Charming on a white horse is supposed to take you up and ride off into the sunset and just make everything wonderful. And we know that's a bit of a fantasy, but that's still the thing that prevails at this time. And I think sometimes it gets men and women in a jam. So what kind of tools can we start to arm ourselves with to be able to really get to what this fairy tale tells us, but what the real reality really is?
Great question. And you just said number one, reality, right? We have to separate our favorite romantic novels and our movies, and we have to separate what we saw automatically growing up, maybe in our households, or what we were told, like the post you put. I saw so many people say, well, that's just how I was raised. Men are supposed to pay the majority. Men are supposed to pay the full mortgage, no matter what he makes. And that reality is, if you get in reality, you realize that that's a fallacy, because a man is not defined by what he makes. And I know that's what we were taught. Just like I'm not defined by my body and what he can do with it, why is he defined by his dollar sign and what's in his wallet? And we have to be okay with being in reality and getting real honest and raw about why we look at men that way and why we associate the dollar sign to them being worthy.
Right, right.
That's one. Number two, you have to be understanding. And you have to have a safe place for each other. If you were my husband and you came to me and said, listen, I'm feeling some type of way, that you believe that this is how we're supposed to operate. You make more than me or we make the same, whatever the situation is, I have a school loan, you don't. You have to provide a safe place for your partner with understanding.
Okay.
That's mandatory, because if a man doesn't feel safe, he's not talking.
Say that again.
If a man doesn't feel safe, he is not talking. You can nag and complain and cry and throw a fit and act like it's his fault all you want. I am speaking from experience. If you do not give a man a safe place, and by safe, I mean listening, not listening to wait your turn, not just hearing so that you can jump in. No, listening and absorbing, being fully present and understanding, and being sympathetic to his plight as well as your own. That's a safe place.
And for the record, the fellas had to do the same thing.
I was getting there.
Okay. Well, lead the way.
No, you're right. It has to be a mutual safe place. But I say more for men, because women will, even if we don't feel safe, we'll blurt out what we want. Mm-hmm. Right. So I'm not here to bash women. I am a woman. I love us, but I know who we are. And we're emotionally, we regurgitate emotionally, no matter whether it's safe or not. You're going to know what I feel. Right.
Right.
Men are the opposite. So if you want to have a dialogue and a back and forth, and you want to have an open communication, it has to be where he feels safe. And we're in control of the environment. Our house, he might have a car and electronics. Let's be real, ladies. We control the environment. They say happy wife, happy life. Well, then be happy in the place that you can offer him a safe place.
Mm-hmm. So the wife, the lover, the mother, the nurturer should also be a protector as well.
Absolutely. You protect in a different way. We all actually have the same roles. He's a nurturer as well, just in a different space and vein. So I'm a provider too. It might not be necessarily all the money, but I'm the provider of safety. I'm the provider of emotional freedom. I am the permission giver to say, here, no matter what your childhood traumas are, no matter what the world says about you, my beautiful man, here, you're safe.
Right.
And that includes money.
Right. Okay. Well, for everybody just joining, I am Camari, Ellis, the Finance Rebel. We are with Stefanie, the Life Architect. This is the Money Hour. This is a new show from the Finance Rebel page. We're going to be doing this live every Wednesday at 7 p.m. This week, we didn't do it on Wednesday because Wednesday is July 4th. But I wanted to have this conversation. I've been dying to have this conversation. And like I said, Stefanie gave a very profound response when I put that post up. And it was a little bit more detailed than what the average one was. A lot of people played, the man pays it all. Because that was a total part, or the man, what did they say? The man, 5,000. Somebody said 5,000 because they know 1850 ain't enough. They need more. So, it was fun, but there was some seriousness in there too, and some people caught some feelings. So if you haven't seen that post, it's on my IG thread, and it's also on my Facebook page as well. And you will see a lot of interesting dialogue. But I like having dialogue because when we talk about money, when we talk about wealth, the biggest proponents, the biggest creators of wealth typically are family, especially family-run businesses. And if you can't get, and I don't mean no disrespect to nobody, but if you can't get your measly paycheck together, it's really hard to build wealth from there. Right. So, and again, I believe it all starts with finance, communication. Some people say finance is the breakdown of divorce. But at the end, I think it's all about open communication, open and honest communication, open and honest, brutally honest communication. So, it takes patience, like Stefanie just said, to really bring a lot of that to the forefront. So, Stefanie, is this something did you and your husband just broke through in one conversation, or was it a series of conversations?
Absolutely not. It's still an ongoing conversation. I had to be honest again with him and tell him how I associate money to masculinity. I had to tell him that I was bred to be turned on by money. You know, before him, I was treated to an abundance of anything I wanted, name brand, all this stuff. But then I had to tell him honestly, but nobody made me feel the way you feel. With all the money and stuff that I had, we had to have these hard conversations. Sometimes they were ugly. Sometimes they ended up in an argument, but they ultimately led us to where we are now, where he's building his credit, where we set a percentage out for ourselves from not only our day-to-day 9 to 5, we both have 9 to 5 and we both have side businesses. I have my coaching and speaking business. We both set a percentage from both to pay us first. Because we were making money on our side businesses and we weren't paying ourselves. And just like the church teaches people to pay yourself 10%, we decided to do that and more. We had to look at what we were putting out in order to make ourselves really build on what we were putting in. And the conversations are ongoing. And that's the thing about growth. Some things don't stop. The conversation keeps evolving and growing, and the topic might tweak here and there, but until we reach our goals, we will continue to have the conversations to see how we can grow and do better.
I love it. I love it. So instead of, one big conversation, you might have a bunch of small mini conversations that are ongoing.
Yes.
But they build. Okay.
Because it's overwhelming. A lot of people look at anything, whether it's finances, any growth area. You see people doing vision boards and all this stuff, and they keep selling this one big dream. You do this one big thing and then you're good for the year. But then that's January 1st. And then by March, people dwindle off because they were so overwhelmed by this big one goal or all of these goals. I always recommend having quarterly goals, having quarterly, conversations, assessing where you are in 3 months, what you did right, what you did wrong, or if there's a wrong, and then taking what you learned and, magnifying that and taking it to the next level. We didn't want to bite off more than we could chew. We started with the credit score. Let's start with credit. How do you build your credit? How did you build it, babe? He asked me and I said, well, what do you want yours to be? Write it down. Write down a number. What would you like your credit score to be? Do you even understand credit? Do you know how to rebuild it? So we started there and now we're past that and we're getting to building the finances.
And how did you learn how to rebuild or build your credit?
Well, my dad is a banker. And I sat him down and I said, listen, I know this is crazy, but after all of these years, I never paid you any mind. And I know.
Wait a minute. I gotta ask. So yes. He's been a banker all your life?
Well, he's my stepdad. So he's my dad, but he hasn't been in my life all my life. And he wasn't a banker the entire time he's been in my life. So I'd say the last almost decade.
But he's been talking to you about money the last decade. Of course
he has. And I'm
like, you was hard-headed. You wasn't listening.
I'm going on a trip. I'm going shopping. I'm getting my hair done for $500. I'm not paying you any mind. Okay. And I sat him down and I said, I'm ready. Because as you know, as I know as a coach and just as a human being, people can try to help you all you want. If you're not ready to help yourself in whatever area it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I was ready. And I said, I want to build my credit. He sat me down. We went out to dinner and we had a nice full conversation. He asked me what I was doing. How many credit cards do I have? What debt am I in? And he just broke everything down. And within a year, mine was down in the 5s. Within a year and a half, I was up to like 730.
Excellent.
And ever since then, I kind of understand how it works now. So I helped my husband with the tools my dad gave me. And then my dad also talked to him as well.
Okay. So you're using the family support system to increase your credit and ultimately your money.
Yes.
Now, I know somebody's going to razz me because I'm not a big credit person, right? I always say if you have enough money, your credit issues usually will disappear.
Tell me this. What are you talking about?
Let me bear it out. So I feel society is very much consumer driven, right? I feel that post, whether people realize it or not, was very consumer, or consumer. What's the word? Consumer. I am mincing words right now. Materialism. It was very much rooted in materialism. Many of the responses were rooted in materialism. And I don't think people really realize how much commercials, advertisement are pumped into our head. I mean, about 20 years, 30, 40 years ago, we would see maybe 500 ads per day. Mm-hmm. Now, on average, now we see 5,000. Mm-hmm. So the brain is always competing with how to spend or always contemplating how to spend. As soon as we get something to spend, well, we've been programming that. I mean, corporations spend billions of dollars every year with coaches and therapists and psychologists to figure out how best to introduce a message into your mind to get you to go spend. And so part of the reason I call myself the finance rebel is because you have to rebel against the average economic system or some of the old age wisdom that we've been taught. And we just talked about that, right? It's like, that's how it was brought up. And so I always say, you know, when we talk about credit, a lot of it is a trap to get you to spend more money. Now, there's nothing wrong with credit. Credit's a tool, just like cash is a tool. But many of us aren't really thinking about it on that deep of a level to say, hey, these credit cards really are trapping if I don't have enough emotional control to use them properly. And so I get a bad rep because I joke around a lot. Like I like to have fun with stuff. So if you're doing something, I find it funny, like credit. I see people say credit is better than cash. And I say that's absolutely ridiculous. And then I'll make jokes about it.
Right.
I hear people say, you know, Bitcoin is the next great thing. I make jokes about it. That's just me. I'm quirky like that. So, you know, I have some friends who are going to say, Camari, but you don't like credit. And that's not the truth. But it's everything else. There's a whole lot of nuance of things. And I tell people all the time, life isn't black and white. We got to figure out all the color in between in order to get to our end destination. So that's my point.
Great explanation. I think you're right. I had to start digging into my lack of discipline to build my credit. And to maintain it thus far, I have to have discipline, because what I was doing, obviously, before, all the spending is the reason, and no paying and the late fees and, you know, all that stuff. I had no discipline. So you're absolutely right. Credit is irrelevant if there's no discipline attached.
It's relevant. It's definitely relevant. Now, I'll be honest, it's not the first thing I want to attack. Savings is usually the first thing I want to attack.
Okay.
Please don't take that as an attack on what you're doing, because I think it's fabulous.
Not at all.
But just stating it out there, because most of us run into credit problems because we don't have the cash to pay for the stuff we need in the first place.
Yeah.
But I'm just putting it out there for the listening audience. For everybody that's listening, again, I'm Camari Ellis, the Finance Rebel. We're Stefanie, the Life Architect. Like, comment, and share this conversation. It's a good conversation. It's a life conversation that can save a lot of marriages and a lot of lives. I feel that money is definitely talked about more so from a consumerism standpoint than it is from a wealth accumulation standpoint. And so that conversation, that dialogue we were having about who should pay for the bills, doesn't really lend to that. Nobody said, well, you know what? We're going to pull our money together. We're going to pay our bills together. We're going to save together. We're going to plan together. Right. And then we're going to buy some freaking assets. Everybody says, well, his money's his and my money's mine, and I'm going shopping with mine.
We're in a selfish state, you know, of mind. Again, we can't keep going on. No one taught me. We're all online every day. We're all absorbing data every day. It's about what data you are absorbing. What data are you absorbing? Are they following you? Are they listening? Because I didn't listen to my dad for 10 years, right?
Right.
It's a choice. It's a choice. And the reason I named my company Better Life Choices is because everything is about making a better life choice. And you just choose one day to say, I will get off this celebrity blog and I will actually Google how to get to this goal. If it's savings, then I will Google how to save efficiently. If it's about credit, I'll Google that. And I just feel that everyone's selfish and values entertainment more than self-preservation, team unity, and growth.
I agree. It's funny. I was having that same conversation with a bunch of other finance professionals earlier today, because I do feel like you're not really getting picked up unless you're gimmicky to a certain degree. And that's not hate. That's just my observation.
I agree.
But I do feel like you should try to make it as fun as possible, right? As simple as possible. So, you know, you want everybody to be able to grasp your message as easily as possible. So there is some work into that. So you can't just go out and just say, hey, invest in this and do that.
Right.
No, people are looking at you like, what in the world is he talking about? So yeah, I do think we have to take some time, but at the same time, you know, if it's not fun, people don't want to be bothered with it. And I get that, because people are stressed. You know, they have a lot of pressure on them, from work to family to relationships to just driving. You know, I have some friends who now work in New York City, and I talk to them and they're cussing because they're driving.
They are stressed out.
Or Manhattan. So that's just another form of stress.
It is another form of stress. But But with that all said, if we really sat down and evaluated our lives, we can sit down and see that a lot of our stress is self-imposed. A lot of our stress is because we're choosing to get involved in things that we really don't have to. We can take 5 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour for ourselves, no matter how busy we are, because we take it for other people and celebrities and things and our favorite binge watch shows. There's a lot of excuses as to why we're not unifying and getting it together. And I'm just not here for any of it.
Right. Okay. So what are some tools? What are some ways that a husband or a wife can approach one another where they feel that their finances aren't in order?
Okay.
And I ask this question because I get presented this question, and I feel like I'm a therapist sometimes.
You are,
but I'm not. I'm not trained. Yeah, unofficial.
Right.
I'm a bootleg therapist. But how would you approach it with your coaching clients?
Well, a lot of times I often recommend to write things down instead of have the conversation initially. You get so much out with a pen and paper or typed up letter, whichever you prefer, because you don't get to get interrupted, right? And you're not scared of hurting someone's feelings or getting your feelings hurt. You don't have to look in the person's eyes. You don't have to have that tense, intimate moment that you're not ready for, because this is a new topic. This is a new conversation. You want to tread lightly. So I always recommend writing it down or typing it up and sharing letters.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
But you don't feel like a person should just be able to talk? I mean, what if you're not a good writer?
You don't have to be a New York Times bestseller. You're on your phone and you can text it. It's no different. This is what I mean about excuses. It doesn't have to be grammatically correct. It doesn't have to be, the spelling doesn't have to be up to par. You just need to get out what you want to say. A lot of times people are scared of confrontation, and you'd be surprised how many people are living together, married, cohabitating, and don't share. Don't really share. So we have to look at it in the world we're in now when people are on the surface. So to get them to break that surfacey wall, we can't just say, well, you should be able to talk to your husband. Though I agree with that, and you should be able to talk to your wife, I don't know what's going on in your household. So my job as a coach is not to should you to death and should all over you. It's to give you tools that might help you where you're comfortable in starting and breaking the ice.
And what if a person isn't responding to your letters?
That's okay. Your job is not to worry about what people respond to. It's for you to get it out. I often say, speak your needs. A lot of times people don't communicate because they're waiting for the person to receive it in a certain way. So if I'm your wife and I want you to know something, of course I want you to be receptive, but I need to understand that it might take more than one time. It might take a letter initially, then a conversation, maybe another letter after that, or maybe after that, I need to stop talking. I've communicated enough that I need to take action. It depends. I do assessments. I can't give a general statement for everybody because I do assessments. We have a pre-coaching intake call so I can know what your goals are and what your needs are. And I also ask my clients, what's their learning style? Because if you're not a writer, as you said, I can't give you a writing assignment. But if you're an auditory learner and you learn through rhythm and music, then my assignments for you will be geared towards that.
Let's talk about learning styles real quick, because that's something, I mean, we are really vibing, because I feel that that's something that every child should be taught before they leave high school.
Yes.
And it would expedite so many things, but it's not. But can you speak to that?
Sure. For a long time, I thought that I was stupid. I didn't know that I wasn't picking up and comprehending because my teachers were teaching to the room. You know, you're in New York with a class of 30 children. You're just like, read this. And I'm like, I'm not getting it. I didn't know that I was a tactile learner, hands-on. I didn't know that I needed to, you know, touch something. If we're doing a science project, I need to actually cut the frog open, or I need to actually get behind the wheel, simulation of some sort. And that's when I started to learn about learning styles after dropping out of high school and getting a GED, because I felt stupid and I didn't want to continue. And someone asked me and said, how are you studying? I said, what do you mean how I'm studying? I'm just writing. And they said, well, you know, there are different ways to study. They opened my world up right then and there to learning styles. And that changed my life. So in communication, as you stated, if you don't know your partner's learning style and love language, which is a whole separate conversation.
Wait, no. Well, let's finish learning styles. And you brought it up, so we got to at least touch on it.
Okay. If you don't know their learning style, again, if you're talking to your husband, wife, your child, or anybody in your life, even your coworker, if you're talking to them in a style that they can't compute, they can't receive, you're essentially talking to a wall. And you might feel disrespected or unheard, but a lot of times it's not deliberate. They really can't compute what you're trying to say because it's how you're saying it.
Right. Okay, so you brought up love languages.
Yes.
Written by Mr. Gary Chapman, I want to say.
I have it over there. I could run and get it, but I don't remember who wrote it.
But can you run our audience through what love languages are?
Yes, love languages are different variations of how people feel loved, acknowledged, and worthy in the relationship. Some people need acts of service. Some people need words of affirmation. Some people need gifts. There's, I think, 2 more. You just have to, physical touch is huge. And for most men, that ranks number 1. And you have to find out what your partner or the person you're involved with, because love is not just for your significant other, it's for your children, it's for your families, for your friends. You have to know how people are loved in order for them to feel loved by you. So if my husband, which his is physical touch, and physical touch, by the way, doesn't always automatically mean straight to the sex. FYI.
I wasn't going there.
No, I am. That's just what I'm here for. I just want to let people know, because people always say, oh God, here we go with men with sex. Yes, sex is there, but he also likes his hand held. He also likes public display of affection. He also likes, to rub my neck or so forth and so on. And I'm not that way. And I had to realize that he wasn't feeling love because I wasn't holding his hand in public, because he needed to be physically touched. So it is important to know what your loved one's love language is. And that's a quick free survey, questionnaire, quiz online. You can take it. And the book is a quick, easy read. And you don't even have to read the book anymore. There's so much information about it online.
I would still encourage everybody to read the book.
Absolutely. But again, for the non-readers,
go to Audible and download it.
Yes.
And I'm sure there's something on YouTube for those who are visual learners.
Yes. There's many different styles to pick it up. So there's no longer an excuse of I don't like to read or I don't like to write. There's too many styles of learning out there for you. And it's important to know the love language and the learning style of someone you're dealing with, especially us in business who we're trying to coach and help.
That's never thought about that. But I can't be going around touching on my clients either. I might be part of the movement.
No, we do a little bit different things as far as coaching is concerned. But I still need to know it, because in case the assignment is with the spouse, in case the assignment is with the child, in case the assignment is with a loved one that they can touch, I need to know, if that's something that they're open to.
Okay. Again, you're watching The Money Hour. Please like, comment, and share this conversation. It's an important conversation. This conversation could actually save lives. And I'm not saying that just because this is my show. I'm saying it because it's the truth. I mean, a lot of people get into disputes and arguments over it. How many children are affected by this lack of communication, lack of understanding with money and finance and relationships. So that's why I wanted to have this conversation tonight. There's some comments in here that I would love to go through. From Marcella Stokes, she says, our brain is inundated with subliminal messages to control and influence the viewer. Credit cards are the devil. I agree. Credit cards are the devil.
Okay.
Right. Thaddeus Green says most people get credit to get out of a bind, not to build or gain assets. I would definitely agree with that. Well, thank you for everybody that's watching and comment. Drop a comment if you have a question. Feel free to do that as well. But until then, we're just going to keep going on having this conversation.
I have some questions for you, if that's okay.
Okay.
But
I see this is role reversal.
No, just really quickly, as a finance guru and as a married man, look at you cringing.
Well, the guru, you know what? I'm just very laid back. Those titles confuse me. I mean, people even call me a coach, because I had a question for you too. Like, the term life coach drives me crazy. The term, because everybody's a coach, and that's not to devalue those who actually do the work. But you got like 15-year-old kids talking about something they're a life coach. It was like, what life experience do you actually have? Now, to be clear, Jesus was walking around at 12 years old blessing people, but most folks ain't got the Jesus touch. So I don't. What's that?
I said they sure don't. And this is why I call myself the life architect. When I became certified, my instructor, my professor told me, you're going into a saturated market. And
Mm-hmm.
you have to stand out in a way where other people are like, well, what's that? So I'm always ready with my promo pitch, because I know people are going to say, you're an architect, you design buildings, what do you mean?
Right.
But it often is a conversation starter, and it gets you past the, oh, you're a life coach, you think you're Yana Van Sant. It gets me past the typical, because you're right, there are so many people uncredentialed,
Mm-hmm.
not really understanding how to approach people, again, with the love language and the learning style. They don't know what they're doing, and they're calling themselves coaches, and they have these followers, and they're getting people, and a lot of people are ruining people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
And I take my craft very seriously. I am not a therapist. I am clear about that. I work in conjunction with a lot of therapists. Many of my clients have therapists and coaches, because we do two different things, though they're similar. And it's important for you to make sure whomever, whether it's financial or life or relationship or sex or whatever coach or therapist you pay for, you inquire with, make sure you understand their credentials, and they're happy to show you and direct you to where their credentials were obtained.
Got you. Now, you wanted to ask me a question. I took us off on a bit of a tangent. I'm sorry.
Yes. How do you start saving with your partner? We'll go back to what most people say. I was raised that you can save with your partner, but a woman got to have her own stash, right? And I saw that growing up, and I brought that into my marriage, which was not a good look. And I had to check myself and say, okay, how do I trust us to save together? If I feel I put the majority in, do you have the right to take the majority out? If I put in 40 grand, I think I saw something online where a guy was saying he put in 40 grand and the wife put in 5, and she took out 40 to pay her school loans.
Well, that goes back to the adage, what's yours is mine, and what's mine is mine.
Oh, that's tough.
Old school, right?
Yes.
But so let me start from a base. So this is the ideal base. Like, every family, every marriage, every relationship is different. But I believe if you are together, you put all the money in one bucket, one account, right? And what you can do from there is, I do believe everybody should have their own money, so they don't have to feel like they're begging to get their money from their significant other, or that they need permission like they're a child. So they each have their own separate account. So you got a joint account, 2 separate accounts, and I believe you should have a joint savings account as well. And from there, you should be able to plan what your life is going to look like. I mean, so collectively, let's say, the average household, I believe, makes $53,000. So in America, combined in America, across the whole country.
Wow.
So go from the highlands of New York, where people in there are making a couple $100,000,
Right.
to the Appalachians, where sometimes folks aren't making $15,000 a year. I mean, in Philadelphia, I think I saw a stat that says, now this is Black community, right? The households in Black community make about $35,000.
Wow.
But with that said, have an understanding what you want to do, where you want to go, how and when you would like to get there, and just start simple. You can start a savings account with as much as $5 a week.
Right.
That's not even no financial witchcraft or anything like that. That's just old school wisdom right there.
Right.
Older gentleman, the elder, he's an ancestor now, but he said, Camari, just put away $5 a week and develop that habit of putting away $5 a week.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you do that, you'll see it accumulate. And then for things where, you might have an emergency fund, you might need it. Now, I don't call it an emergency fund anymore. Somebody called me on that, right? They said language is very important. So you're calling emergencies into your life. So I call it an opportunity fund now, right?
Okay.
And so I say it's the opportunity fund to make sure you're able to still continue to get to all the opportunities that are presented to you.
I like that. I'm using that. Thank you.
All right. Just give me credit.
I got you. I'm going to ask you.
Send me a royalty too.
I will.
So put away, $5 a week into your $5 every time you get paid into your opportunity fund. And then from there, you can keep building and building and building. So the first thing is really to develop that habit.
Mm-hmm.
And you understand why. The roof could fall in. Baby girl might need shoes.
Mm-hmm.
You might need food, because the refrigerator broke down, and you might not have no money to go get a new refrigerator fixed or no warranty under it, but you still need food.
Right.
So, you have some money set aside to still eat and do the things you need to do, or get the refrigerator fixed, to get your car fixed, things like that. Things happen all the time. They say the one thing that's constant about life is change, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's not just change on the positive side. That's also change on the the negative side. Now, I do believe there's a lesson in everything we go through, but you can't imagine that you're going to drive your car 100,000 miles and never stop for gas, never get your brakes changed, never change the oil or anything like that. So you need to have some money set aside so that's not a surprise.
Okay.
The other thing I try to do as much as possible is help people, guide them through purchases, major purchases especially. So when people buy a car, I'm going to stick with the car, they don't realize all the costs that come with a car.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to buy this big SUV, the tires on an SUV are going to be more expensive than the tires on a Camry.
Right.
And so you need to be prepared for that. I mean, so many people who have, I'll just say, foreign cars, right, that are of a luxury standard, but when they break down, they can't afford to fix them. And it's like, well, why did you get it if you know you can't afford to fix it?
Right.
So
they think about the fixing.
Right. Well, a lot of times, again, especially in our society, is deeply rooted in consumerism, which is not good. So let me break this down. 67, almost 70% of the U.S. economy is built on consumer spending. People like you and I going to the store buying stuff. That's not wealth.
Right.
That's not savings. That's not retirement savings. That's not any of that. And so a lot of times we're thinking about how can we go and spend, and I'm harping on spending because to me that is the devil a lot of times. And I know we do need to, everybody's a consumer, but we don't need to overconsume.
Right.
When you go to the market, you usually go buy milk, cheese, and bread, but the market is designed as such to get you to walk past everything to get past the milk, cheese, and bread. And when you go check out, they have these candies that always get me in the checkout line.
They have the good stuff at the checkout line.
Yep.
Purposefully, yes.
Yeah. But, again, that's why I say you kind of got to rebel. But again, at the family unit, at the relationship unit, if they could just say, you know what, we're going to put $5 aside every week. Just start small and build from there. We'll be good. We'll be good. And then I think you should also read together or watch videos together or listen to podcasts together. Right? Whatever your learning style is. One book I recommend to everybody is The Richest Man in Babylon.
Let me write this down. Go ahead.
The Richest Man in Babylon. It says to make slaves out of your money. Now, if you're uncomfortable with the slave reference, I get it. But basically saying make your money work for you. And if you can't save, you'll never be able to make your money work for you, and you will always work for your money. The body's going to deteriorate at some point. It's going to give out. Hopefully you'll have enough money and a stash to keep working for you when you need it, to keep food on the table and keep the electric on.
Agreed. How important is it to teach our youth financial literacy? Again, I didn't grow up with anyone educating me other than, girl, save your money and pay your tithes. Save your money, pay your tithes. And I just never heard anything other than that. Again, no amount, how much to save, nothing to do when I saved it. It was a Nike shoebox under my mattress, full of 1s, 5s, 10s, and 20s. And once I saved it, I said, oh, okay, no one's telling me what to do with it. So let me go make, as you say, the devil a purchase. I saved, I'm 15 or I'm whatever, and I saved $500. So let me go and do this. There was no guidance. There was no human GPS. As I said, there was that for finance. So how important is it to let your children know not only about finances, but how important do you think it is to let your children know how bills work, how you pay? This is what I get paid. This is what goes out every month. Do you think that that's acceptable?
Oh, it's more than acceptable. It should be the standard. I think financial education it's probably the most important thing right now, right? Outside of skill development. And they all, to me, coincide, right? But financial education is very, very important. I mean, you talk about savings. And I get a lot of parents asking me, what should I save in, or how should I teach my children about savings and money? I said, well, you do it first.
Right.
Okay. And the reason why I say that is not to be cute or smart or anything. Children learn from us.
Yes.
They are sponges.
Yes.
They pick up everything.
They mirror our behavior.
Yes, absolutely. Good or bad, unconscious or conscious, right? And so, one of the things I do with my children is I try to talk to them about money as much as possible on their level.
Okay.
I shared this on a couple places. So my daughter's birthday just passed a couple months ago. She loves doing makeup. She's always on YouTube watching makeup videos.
Me too.
But now she's even doing little girls' makeup.
Wow.
But whatever. It could be a skill, right?
It is a skill, and she could. That's a lucrative business if done right.
Yes, absolutely. So what I did was I brought her a gift card to Ulta.
Okay.
And I brought her some stock from Ulta.
Yeah.
So she could see how Ulta makes money and then be interested in it. And this little girl ain't never been to Ulta before. So now every time she gets a chance to make some money, she wants to go to Ulta.
Yes.
Right. So, you you got to try to find, I don't want to say sneaky ways, but relevant ways that will appeal to them they're interested about money.
Yes, you spoke to her language. You spoke to her interests. You also showed her that you support her interests, whether you understand it or not.
Yes.
That's a big gap that I coach a lot. People think that they have to understand in order to either comply or agree. You don't have, you've never worn makeup, you're a man. You don't have to care about an eyeshadow, a lip gloss, or anything. What you care about is seeing her come alive.
Yep.
And you care about taking that living and turning it into sustainability and growth. And she can end up being a mogul because daddy just took the time to say, I don't understand, but what I do understand is how to make what you like, your passion, and turn it into some bread.
Yeah. Just trying to cross, make it relevant. So that's one thing I do. And you asked about bills. Yes, I think you should know about bills.
Yes.
I'm trying not to be the electricity Nazi like our parents were. Turn that light off.
Turn that, close that refrigerator.
So now what I say is, every time you leave the lights on, my son loves Chipotle. Well, actually, both of them, my son and my daughter, my two youngest, my son and my daughter, they both love Chipotle. I say, well, every time you leave the light on, that's less money we can buy you Chipotle.
Yes.
So again, I try to relate it to something that they're interested in. Now, it ain't worked perfectly.
That's what I was just about to ask. Is it working?
But I do see them being a bit more conscious about it. And one thing my mentor taught me a lot. He helped me with a lot of parenting skills. Mm-hmm. He said you got to repeat things over and over again. You got to be patient with them.
He is so right. So many of us get frustrated, whatever we're trying to do. Even when we went back to the spouses and you said, what if the letter writing doesn't work? Mm-hmm. Whatever style you're doing, you might have to do it at least 7 to 12 times before it even sinks in. And that is the most frustrating thing to hear and for me to even say. But it's true. I find with my research in the last 3 years that my clients on average for an adult 7 times, for a child 12.
So the adult has to be told something 7 times before it sinks in.
Minimum.
And child's 12.
Yes.
So those numbers actually line up with the marketing research for ads and advertisement.
Wow.
But they say you have to see a person at least 7 times or hear a message at least 7 times before they can even begin to say, I might want to do business with them. So that makes sense. And I know it's all based off of psychological studies.
There you go. So this was just my study with my clients. And there you go, confirming and affirming that is true. It is accurate. And it's, again, very frustrating to hear because we want to say, honey, do this. And they're like, okay, it just doesn't work like that. And the more we understand that the world is not wrapped around us and our finger and our needs, the more we're able to say, you know what? I think when he talks to me, it might take me 12 times too. So why am I why am I acting like he is the wrong one here or she is the wrong one when we're both human?
So basically everybody needs to be patient. So what do you say? And I'm not picking on the ladies, but I always hear ladies say that I ain't got time to be training nobody up.
Well, then be single. Listen. I'm gonna just keep it all the way real. We don't get into relationships with anyone who's perfect. Why? Because there is no perfect being walking on this planet, right? So if we're growing together, if the goal is to get with somebody and grow together, growing takes education. Growing takes patience. Growing takes learning and understanding. So if you ain't got time to be educating nobody, then stay by yourself because you fail to realize that somebody's educating you too.
Okay. I like that. I'm gonna have to come back and re-listen to this conversation.
Easier said than done. But
absolutely.
We're learning. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And that's part of the reason why the divorce rate is supposedly 50%. A lot of times there's no patience or people are just incompatible. But like you said, that's a whole other conversation.
Like I put in the comment of your post, or I don't know if it was your post or because I saw that what you posted going around on social media a lot. Mm-hmm. This is why the courting stage is so important. right? We miss out nowadays on courting, dating, getting to know someone. What do you like? What do you like? What's your idea of love? What's your idea of money? We don't do that anymore, right? And we just go straight into that's boo, that's bae. You know, I'm gonna put in a relationship status on social media, that's mine. And we knocked up or we shacking up or we married or whatever we're doing. It's just boom, instant. And courting was created to get to know someone. And if you get to know someone, 9 times out of 10, you'll have an easier, not easy, easier, ER, an easier transition when you're growing together, when you're cohabitating.
Okay. I can see that. I can see that. But what about, and again, I'm not picking on the ladies, but these are the things that I hear. So on the first date, a lady asks, what's your credit score?
I would.
On the first date?
If it depends on my age. I had this exact conversation with my husband the other day, and he asked me if we were dating now, how would it go? And I told him at my age or older, I don't have time to waste. It would be between date 1 and date 3 where the heavy hitters come out.
Okay.
I can't wait anymore. If I'm 35, 6, 7, 8, and I'm going into 40, I don't have the time. I need to know where'd you learn commitment? Where'd you learn financial literacy? You know, what is intimacy to you? I need to know a whole bunch of questions.
Okay.
We got to stop being scared of turning people off.
I agree with that.
We got to be okay with having conversations that answer the questions that we want to know.
Yeah, but I do believe in timing as well. So on the first date, I don't know if I'm comfortable with somebody asking me about my credit score.
That doesn't mean you have to answer it. You could say exactly what you said. I'm not comfortable with you asking me about my credit score. Okay, I'll ask you next date if there's a date 2. That doesn't mean I don't have to ask it. You can openly, honestly speak your needs and say that this line of questioning is not working for me.
Okay. All right. I like that.
He's like, I don't know. You listen, we can put our body parts on social media, but I can't ask you what your credit score is. Not that you're doing that, but I'm talking about the world.
I got you.
We putting personal business, airing out family members, thong shots, and a
lot of other things.
Yeah, a lot of other things that are inappropriate, but I can't say, hey, I'm a woman of a certain age or a woman who doesn't have any time to waste as far as game playing. This line of questioning might be uncomfortable with you. Feel free not to answer it, but I'm definitely going to ask. And feel free to answer when you're comfortable should we proceed.
So I guess it would be okay for a man to ask a woman her credit score on the first date?
Absolutely.
What about age?
Absolutely.
Because you know the old school way.
I know the old school way, but as I said on your post, that old school way is keeping people single, lonely, empty. We got to stop going that everything is inappropriate. There are some things the old school way that are necessary. Some things we need to keep. We have to assess what we can keep and what works for us and what we can put on the back burner for now.
How do you do that though?
Well, you decide what works for you. What works for me in my dating might not work for you, right? We might be sitting across from a table. You might be like, this girl is just too much for me. It's not going to work for me. But I think we just need to speak our needs. Why are we so scared to say what we would like to know? You don't have to answer it.
So let me back up. You said you would want to know the credit score. So what if I think the lowest credit score is like either 450 or 350. Wow. So the person has the lowest possible credit score, but they've been through some things. Do you think that's, and I know this is subjective, right? For this role playing, is that something that a person should even consider? Because I mean, a lot of times people don't want to put that stuff out because they're in fear of being judged.
Absolutely. Most people ask what you do for a living so that they can know how to judge you. So I completely understand that mindset. I would, knowing what I know now, I would definitely give that disclaimer, like, this is not about judging you, because if your answer is 525 or 300, then I would have a follow-up question to say, that's okay. Mine was low too. Is there anything you're doing about it to grow it? Do you care about growing it? It might be you where you say, well, I don't really care about credit. I'm more about savings. That would open up a whole new dialogue. So it's not about judging you. It's to see how you navigate. And if we're going to be compatible,
right,
how we're going to navigate together.
Right. Okay. That's interesting. I'm really interested to see, because I mean, I see that comment, what you just said, I'm a lady of a certain age and I don't have time to waste. I see that a lot. But then, what I guess from me, what I observe is that there's no compassion or empathy for the person who legitimately went through something, and just might be in a bad place in life or just rebuilding, right?
Yes.
It's rebuilding. And they could be a wonderful partner, but that's one of those exclusions that they're not able to go forward past.
You're absolutely right. There is so much judgment attached to many things. How much our credit score is, what we have saved, whether you live at home with your mama, anything could have happened.
I just had that conversation.
It's the truth. Anything could happen. And we do have to be sympathetic and understanding. But in order to weed out, the mess that's going on, because there are a lot of people in those situations because they choose to be, and there are a lot of people in those situations because life happened.
Right.
So I would just be trying to figure out which one are you. And you know what? Sometimes together, when you get with the right person, compatible, they build you up. I often like to say, I'm not calling you out. I'm not calling you out. I'm calling you up. I see your potential, and I don't want to live on potential. But the more information I have, I can know how to say, you know what? This man is amazing. He just needs a little bit of this, and I can take a little bit of that from him, and we can be an unstoppable team.
Power couple.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's see. Any other comments? Anybody have any comments, questions for us? We got about 5 more minutes. And again, if you're just joining, I'm Camari Ellis. This is Stefanie, the Life Architect. Like, comment, and share this conversation. We are talking about relationships and money, or loving money, or booze and money. I gotta find a cute topic.
Booze and money, bay and money. Let me ask you a question. How is it men often? Let me not say men. It's often been said that men don't like it when women make more than them. And in reality, women, especially women of color, are out here killing it right now.
Killing it, being entrepreneurs. Someone like me who are entrepreneurs and still have the 9-to-5 and doing both checks. How should a man approach his woman in your financial expertise if he feels uncomfortable? So I get asked this question all the time. I wouldn't care if my woman made more than me.
Say that.
There's some months that my wife makes more than me.
Right.
It's because, a client didn't pay a bill on time, cash flow fluctuates, but money doesn't define me. And if let's just say I was single, right, and I met a young lady and I thought it could work, and she made more money than me, I don't care. I absolutely don't care, because I'm still going to be me. I'm always looking to bring value to the table, regardless. So I'm never going to be the type of guy who's going to be laying up watching you go to work and I don't have a job, right? And if you are going to work, right, because the economy is changing, the world is changing, a lot more men are staying home.
Yes.
To do things. So I'm still going to be figuring out other ways to make money, other ways to maximize your money, other ways to try to maximize the home. I'm not going to say I'm the most domestic person, but I'll cook. You won't have to worry about eating.
Yes.
And if I gotta clean, then I'll make that happen too. Now I might have to find somebody to do it, but it'll get done. And I'll wash clothes. I have no problem washing clothes. So full belly, and you will have clean clothes. But some men are stuck in gender roles, tradition, old school. Because you saw some people. Matter of fact, there's a friend of mine, and he was probably like, her money is her money, and I pay for everything. Hopefully she's saving. Now, I was really curious about that statement.
Yeah.
Because I know this person has a higher level of financial education than most, but you would think, they're saving and working together.
Right.
But again, every household is different. What I proposed earlier about everybody putting their money in a pot is just the ideal situation. But, there's theory and then there's application. You have to come away from the theory and make what works for you work for you.
I agree.
But, I don't have a problem with women making more money. And actually, you're talking about Black women, women of color. Typically, they've kind of always made more money than men. Nobody ever wants to talk about that.
Say that.
But I'm a nerd. I put it out there all the time. I love history. And when you look at Black men, especially men of color, especially in this country, we couldn't get jobs a lot of times.
Right.
And so, that leads to a whole bunch of other issues. But then, the woman could go out and get a job, whether it's day work, babysitting, whether it's, whatever. And for the newer folks or the younger folks who don't know what day work is basically cleaning somebody's house.
Yeah.
But that happened a lot. And the man would get laid off sometimes pretty often. People don't like good times. Some people don't like good times because James was always looking for a job.
That was reality.
But that, for a certain group of people, that was reality. I'm not going to say all minorities, all Black people experienced that, but a lot did. And so I don't have a problem with a woman making more money because, again, it's supposed to be whatever we put in the pot together to make that pot grow. And as long as you come to the table with a growth mindset, I think everything will be okay. Now, your ego might get bruised every now and again.
Well, that's a separate story.
But we're talking about money. I mean, you got to kind of add it into the mix,
You do, but having the ego conversation, that's a whole
no, I'm not trying to have it.
That's a whole nother hour, but I agree with you wholeheartedly. I believe that men need to understand that if they don't want to be seen as a dollar sign and have much more to bring to the table, which they do, they have to stop acting like a dollar sign.
Right. So, all right, here's an interesting comment. Michael Sneed said, I hope I'm saying your name right, Michael. I can't be with a woman that earns more money than me. I would have to step my game up. That's admirable.
That's admirable.
But what if? So part of the issue why women make more money than men, a lot of times, is because women have more education than men, statistically. And so, yeah, you can go out there and hustle. And I'm not saying you can't do it, but I'm saying, what if you couldn't do it? Could you, still live with yourself, still be in that relationship? And this is like, I'm imagining this is the person for you. So I would love to see your response to that, Michael. So Andrew Sterling, my temple buddy, I don't mind a woman who makes more. The issue is when they lose respect for men due to that, or they decide to spend money how they want because they feel it's theirs. It depends on her. Right. I agree.
Great point.
Oh, well, we're getting deep now, Michael. I can't wait to hear Stefanie's response to this. How can you lead her if she is ahead of you?
Oh, well, you can lead me because I don't believe that money makes me ahead of you. I think men have way more to offer than a dollar sign. I don't only see you as a dollar sign. You don't walk in and I'm taking your wallet. You give me love, comfort, security, safety, and you don't only do that with your wallet. So that's him believing that I'm ahead of you just because my dollar sign, my gross income, and my net is more than you. But what else do you bring to the table? Why are you only looking at yourself as one entity? That would be my question to you.
Right. My response to that is, I hear men talk about leading, and Michael, I'm not picking on you, but I'm talking generally now. And it's this, how can I say, this patriarchal, authoritarian type of leading. And it's not based on partnership.
Right.
And some of the most successful relationships I've seen are partnerships, not subservient or subjugated folks, right? So it's partnership. So why do you feel the need to say how can you lead her if you don't make more money than her? I mean, with partners that work hand in hand, and then let's say, again, partnership isn't necessarily everybody do everything equally.
Right.
It's about, I have some flour, you got some milk. Now we got to figure out how to get the egg to make this batter to make the cake.
Yep.
That's partnership. It's not about giving directions or barking orders. And again, this is the stuff I get from some of the other men. Well, I'm not trying to say that that's you. Hey, Marky, how you doing? So, I always wonder about that. And a lot of these old school adages that we hold on to. I'm gonna just go there.
Go there. We have some unlearning to do.
They are very white supremacist based. They are very Eurocentric based. And when you look at our people and their natural element, it was not about this authoritarian, paternalistic relationship. That was not the dynamic. And so I'm always challenging people to go do some history. And I know people don't want to do it, but if you do it and you do it from more of a holistic standpoint, you'll see a whole different world out there.
I agree with you. We have a lot of unlearning to do. we have to understand that just because society told us that money equals power, money equals the person who's in control, that doesn't have to be the narrative in our households. Like you said, if we change our mindset to one of partnership versus who's the leader and who's the follower, we take this hierarchy mindset away and stop thinking that it has to be this or this and make it, very unified and holding hands together. I think that would help a lot. So to answer his question, I would definitely, if we were talking in a coaching session, of course, where did he get that idea from? I'm pretty sure I know society has always told that a man's supposed to make the money, men make the money, men have the power. But why do you have to hold on to that narrative in your life right now? If you have someone who loves you, who adores you, who wants to build with you, why do you have to see her as the leader versus your partner?
I totally agree. I totally agree. And you can lead in your respective field, right?
Yes.
If your job is like, I know men who cook better than their ladies.
So do I.
They cook. Now, society says he's a punk ass. I don't agree with that.
I don't either.
I don't agree with that. Now, there's a movie called Donnie Brasco, right? And it's Donnie Brasco, where Lucky from the Bronx, Two Guns from the Bronx, Lefty, Two Guns from the Side. All the best cooks are men. All the chefs are men. And when you kind of look out at the landscape, most of the best chefs are men. Now, I don't know why that is. I haven't done a deep dive, but a lot of them are men. So men clearly have the natural ability to be great at cooking.
Yes.
But, society says the little lady's supposed to stay home, barefoot, pregnant, and cook the food and have the man's his cold mug of beer when he gets home. Right. And that doesn't work, especially nowadays. Right. And everybody's kind of changing against that anyway.
Everybody's trying to make their relationship their own. And when I say build, customize, and design your life, I really mean that. I really mean take into accountability what you want, not what your mama said you should have, not what society said you should have, what you and your partner decide what works best for you. You do not have to live based on someone's idea of what your relationship should be, what kind of parent you should be, what kind of husband, what kind of wife you should be. You're always a provider. You might not provide in the way that you thought you would be a provider, but understand that if you're there and somebody chose you and you chose them, that's because you're providing something that they need and want.
Right. Well, one more before we go. So Michael is giving great feedback. Michael responded again. He said, currency is a tangible asset that can be measured to show your value to the marketplace. If you are studying, acquiring wealth, you will start to earn more. A great man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. Okay, I get your point. You're saying that you should be able to level up and make more money, Michael. I get you. But you know what? I'm going to push back. And I want to ask you this. If you're with Oprah Winfrey, and Oprah needs somebody to be a good helpmate to her, do you say yes or do you say no? And don't factor in Stedman.
Right. Leave him out of it.
Leave Stedman out of this.
What I will say also is I know a lot of wealthy men whose children can't stand them. I know a lot of wealthy men who do not have any connection with their loved ones. And they left their children money, but their children are emotionally empty. So I want you to know, Michael, and everyone watching who believes the narrative that money is what they have to leave behind in order to leave a great footprint, that is false. You can leave both, but it's more important to me as a man that he leaves me emotionally full and his children and his household emotionally full than leaving us with a mansion. That's just my opinion.
All right. Michael said no. Michael, that's honest. I appreciate it.
I hear you, Mike.
But listen, I'll be Oprah's Mr. Mom or Mr. Dad any day.
Me too. I'll be her Gail and all that.
All right. So we went over our time for about 8 minutes. Thank everybody that joined us today. Stefanie, please let everybody know where they can find you, where they can employ your services or use your services somehow.
Thank you so much. You can find me on my website at blcny.org or across all social media platforms at BLC New York, BLCNEWYORK. My email address is Coach Stefanie, that's Stefanie with an F, STEFANIE at blcny.org.
All right. Well, thank you, Stefanie. Thank you, everybody. Now, like I said, like, comment, and share this out. We're going back to this. I don't know if people remember what I used to do lunch money on lunchtime, but we're going to change that. We're going to flip it. We're going to go from day to night. And so we're going to start the money hour 7 p.m. Wednesday starting next week. Fresh 7 p.m. on Wednesday starting fresh. Please go like the Finance Rebel page, and I will see you all next time.
Thank
Have
you
a
for
great
having
evening.
me.